Hi everyone. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about PCE mechanism. In our last lecture, we have learned about economic activity and we now know about the definition of economic man and the determining factors of economic activity. From this lecture, we will know about different types of economic activities. PCE mechanism. Here P stands for production, C for consumption, and E for exchange mechanism. Earth as a whole is an accumulation of numerous marketplaces for economic men. The tool of function in this market is a complex system that is known as PCE mechanism. It refers to any process that increases economic value of a commodity beyond the value of its raw material input. PCE mechanism is an economic system under which economic men conduct their economic activities in a cost-effective manner in the marketplace. Here is a graphical representation of PCE mechanism. So PCE, production, consumption, exchange, they are interrelated to each other. The first component of PCE mechanism is production. Production is creation of goods and services. There are different types of production. For example, food produced by a farmer, car made by a manufacturer, or structural design by an engineer. These are different types of production. And production can be divided into several categories like primary production, secondary production, tertiary production, quaternary production, and quinary production. First, we will discuss about primary production. Primary production includes old age activities such as hunting, gathering, agriculture, fishing, mining activities. So primary production is the activities related to obtaining natural resources for manufacturing or food. They are known as red collar labor force due to their outdoor nature of work. They are known as red collar labor force. In this diagram, a farmer is cultivating in his field and this type of activity is under primary production group. Secondary production. Secondary production is like processing the raw materials. So in this sector, it includes all activities that convert raw materials into finished or semi-finished products. It is usually associated with industrial activity. Secondary production increases the value of previously existing item by changing its form. Such activities include manufacturing and processing activities. They are labeled as blue-collar labor force. In this picture, the input material is raw cloth. It is processed in industry and the final product is ready-made garments. So here is manufacturing involved here and that's why it is secondary economic activity. Tertiary production. This sector includes all the activities that produce intangible goods and services. It does not create or manufacture materials. So this work refers to a range of personal and business services involving a rapidly growing share of the labor force in highly developed areas. They might be labeled as pink-collar labor force. Some examples of tertiary producers are like nurses, doctors, chef, bus driver, teachers. Quaternary services. Quaternary services represent a special type of service work focusing on professional and administrative services, including financial and health service work, information processing, teaching, government service, as well as entertainment activity. This group is known as white-collar labor force. The difference between tertiary service and quaternary service is that quaternary services are more sophisticated than tertiary one. Here is an example of quaternary service provider like web developer. This is an example of quaternary service provider. And finally, quinary service. Quinary services include high-level managerial and executive administrative positions. Scientific research and development services also considered as same services. This group is also known as gold-collar labor force. Examples of quinary services are like president of a country or researcher in any scientific background. They are example of quinary producers. The second component of PCE mechanism is exchange mechanism. Exchange refers to a process by which goods and services are transferred or traded from one location to another location where they have more worth to end users. This exchange is known to increase place utility of a commodity. It works as a link between the producer and consumers. Transportation service plays a vital role in exchange mechanism. It makes a linkage between producer and consumer. Produced goods are transported through different modes and it reaches to the consumer. Consumption, another component of PCE mechanism. Consumption is using the goods and services produced. The term refers to the final or direct use of goods and services to satisfy the wants and needs of human beings. This system is very much dependent on the consumers and their income, as demand for quantity and variety of product depend on the income of the population. So the taste and demand of consumer determine the rate of production. Here is a graphical representation of the relationship among different components of PCE mechanism. PCE mechanism that is linked to marketplace. It is closely related with production and consumption. Production depends on consumption. Producers produce goods. And production of goods and services demanded by consumers determine the consumption. Consumers are related to consumption. And consumption depend on threshold population and sustained demand. And the entrepreneur, it helps to produce goods in a cost-effective manner, and it helps consumers to avail the goods and services demanded by them. So it makes a closed loop, and this is PCE mechanism. So all the components are closely linked with each other. So that is the end of today's lecture, PCE mechanism. Bye bye today.